Okay, welcome everyone to the Parks Commission meeting. It's Thursday, October 10th. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and it will be broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access channel and uploaded to the Lunenburg Access YouTube channel. This meeting will be held in person at the location provided on the notice. The agenda lists all of the topics which may be discussed at the meeting and are those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by the open meeting law. So to open this meeting, I'm going to take a roll call vote because we do have one member who is joining us remotely. So we have Karen Menard
Here.
Chris Sullivan. He will join us. He's remote. Colleen Shapiro
Here.
and Anita Shipers, chair here. And we have with us also tonight, Chris Ruth, our facilities director. So we have a very limited agenda tonight, but I'm not sure how limited the discussion will be. The purpose of tonight's meeting was to basically update the commission in terms of where the cost estimates have come in for the Marshall Park project. And we need to make a decision about what we want to put forward in the motion for the warrant article for the borrowing for the remainder of the Marshall Park project. We have had several iterations of cost estimates that the town has done over time. And the last cost estimate that we had was in January of 2024, less than a year. And when we went and changed the design firm that we're working with from Wola, who is now Fuss & O'Neill, to the firm of RDLA out of Boston, it basically required that we do a new cost estimate because we're no longer in the schematic stage. We are in a deeper design stage, almost at completion of phase 1 design. So unfortunately, the cost estimates that have come in for phase 1 exceeded the amount that we have available, actual funds available. And so that is one thing. The other thing is that we need to determine what additional funds over the available money we have now, what additional funds we want to put and ask the voters at the November 12th special town meeting. What do we want them to fund for additional funds for the park project? So if the committee can look at this little spreadsheet, on the left, the yellow is a brief spreadsheet that the previous town manager had put together to try to determine how much of the funds that had been appropriated at that time have actually been spent. So the funds that were available at that time were the $50,000 from the capital plan conceptual design. Then there was $25,000 for capital plan survey, another town meeting vote for $184,000 for schematics engineering. So that added up to $259,000. Out of those funds, we have already spent money for conceptual design, a survey, a schematic design, some civil engineering, a cost update, and some other miscellaneous expenses that came in at $116,680. So the net of that, the available funds after those expenses, are $142,320. In addition to that, we have the ARPA funds, which the selectmen have allocated to this project in $1 million. We also, then to that, I'm adding the remaining available funds of the $142,320, and we have the park grant, which is at $500,000, which gives us money that we now have available 1,642,320. But from that amount, we have spent approximately $5,000. I need to double check that number with you in terms of what's been paid. I'm putting in $5,000 for that. I think that's conservatively high. We have contract obligations for our OPM, Owners Project Management Firm, for a not to exceed amount of $250,000, and we have the design firm RDLA, which we have a not to exceed contract amount in $143,000. Those are for phase one. So when you do all the math, that means the remaining funds that we have for actual construction of phase one is $1,244,320. Now, unfortunately, that is far below what the updated cost estimates came in as. There was another design team meeting today where actually we talked about this last Wednesday. No, yesterday. We talked Wednesday. I'm losing track. I'm sorry. Wednesday, we had a design team meeting, a team Zoom meeting. And, you know, we let them know that, you know, that we need to do value engineering to make this work. But last night I had significant concerns about how many dollars do we actually have available? Because we've been working on rounded numbers and not exact figures, which always makes me stress out. So this morning I worked on trying to update the numbers to get the exact number of dollars we have available and came up with this $1,244,320. I haven't yet worked with our finance director to make sure that he agrees with this number, but I do feel it's we are much more accurate than we have been in terms of any discussions that we've had in the past few months. So the design team meeting that we had again today was to look at that cost estimate, the updated cost estimate of yesterday, which brought us to $1,600,000 roughly. You know, I told you all that there would be some reductions. We asked them to do value engineering. At that time, we thought the number we had available was the 1.6. It's not. So today's discussion was what additional value engineering can we do to make this work for phase one with what we have available, what we know we can commit. So there was a lot of discussion and we aren't there yet. The owner's project manager sent me what he thought was the updated budget reflecting the discussion points we had this afternoon, but it didn't come through that way. So I'm not even going to bother to give it to you. As soon as I get the corrected version, I'll send that out to all of you. But needless to say, that we still have things that we need to look at to reduce, to get down to the funds we know we have available. So that's frustrating. The other thing is that in the course of making those adjustments, some of the things that we had planned to do in phase one have been pushed off to phase two. But phase two costs in that new updated cost estimate were also more expensive. So by pushing off phase one costs into phase two, we are just pushing off additional expense. Which means that, what do we decide to ask for town meeting for this fall, this November 12th special town meeting? Anna Lockwood, previous chair of this commission, and I met with the interim town manager the other day and asked him, what are you seeing in terms of where the budget lies for this coming fiscal year? And, because the intent is that what we're borrowing will be within the normal operating budget. This will not be a debt exclusion borrowing. This will be within the town operating budget. And he basically said that he cannot see that we could ask for anything more than the 5.2 that had originally been estimated roughly 18 months ago that we need. We now know today that 5.2 won't be enough because we're pushing off phase one costs into phase two. And the cost estimate for phase two has escalated in the same way that it escalated for phase one. However, he did give us very clear guidance. You really cannot ask for more than the 5.2. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is to let all of you know where we stand. But also, this is a commission decision. This isn't me as chair. It isn't Karen and I as people who attend the special design meetings. This is something that the commission needs to make decisions about how we're going to proceed. So are we in very general thoughts? Do we want to go ahead and at least put on the motion for the special town meeting warrant article that we're going to ask for the 5.2 and continue to work with the design team to figure out what's included in the 5.2? Or not? Or what other actions might you suggest that we take? You know, we find ourselves in a conundrum, not unusual.
How far off? So obviously, I understand we've pushed things from phase 1 to phase 2. Phase 2 went up, phase 2 could go up again before we actually get to it.
Mhm.
How far off is that 5.2? Because there's also some potential for some grants that haven't come in yet.
So
Or
we
is
have
that,
we're just waiting on the ADA. We're not-
Just the ADA
Just
right
waiting.
now, doesn't mean we will apply for more, but we have to make decisions now based on what we have
right?
or don't
So-
have.
It's off. And that's, I mean, I don't have because the spreadsheet wasn't,
Right, but like.
And I apologize, I was
significant-
hoping
no,
we'd have it
it's
tonight.
fine, if they didn't get it to you, you can't have it, but I mean, I feel like how far off that is relevant, because we don't wanna ask for this money and then need another $2 million in order to even move forward or something, or is it something that we might be able to close the gap? I mean, there's only so much value engineering they're gonna do.
Correct.
You know, is there anything that we are willing, that we could take off that would make up the difference?
There's
You know,
things we can take off and put off for a future date, yet to be determined when that might happen. However, I don't want to go into a lot of detail yet because I don't know the ramifications.
Right.
But I need to be honest and say that we have made commitments for grants, the park grant and then the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant, that we would include certain components of the park
Well,
design
that's why I didn't
in
know.
phase 1 and in phase 2.
What could actually come off.
So we run, I'm just gonna say this briefly because I don't want to go into more detail until I've had a chance to speak to them. But we run the risk that if we take too much off, they will say we are no longer meeting our obligation under that contract. And they may not provide us the grant funds. Those are reimbursement grants. You know, so we would be proceeding, you know, at the town's risk, which I don't think any of us want to do lightly or do it all. So you need to be aware of that.
So what's the worst case scenario if we ask for the 5.2
you could have to go back and ask for
more?
more in the annual town meeting. At the, you know,
What,
the earliest
up
would be
against
annual
whatever
town
the
meeting.
budget would be, right? It could be special town meeting next year.
It could be,
Could be.
it could be, I mean, it's, there's just so many moving parts to it. And we're just in a, I don't think any of us ever expected to be in this. I think when that new quote came in last week, took me all of 5 minutes to be on the phone with Chris Ruth. It took me all of 10 minutes to be on the phone with Anita. Just because it was such a substantial difference and needing to understand why. And now I think after listening in today, I'm starting to understand more of why it is. But it's not any commissioner's fault. It's not Chris's fault. It's just, it sort of is the nature of the way things went and, you know, so yeah, I think we could be back in, you know, at the earliest, we could be back in annual town meeting or it would be special town meeting. My biggest concern in all of this is the grants
Mhm.
Because
Me too.
it's twofold, it's actually twofold. The
Two
only
grants.
good thing is, that both of these grants are out of the same office, so our contact is the same. So if we, just to go back on the land and water grant, the land and water grant, is $1 million
And that's
With a-
for phase two
for
work.
phase two work. That has a match of $5.2 million in order to get that $1 million grant. All of that was submitted using the most up-to-date information we had
At that time.
at that time, which was a cost estimate in January. I think we're over that, so my concern is if we're removing stuff from phase one, now we have to, we've got that grant issue to deal with. Now we're moving into phase two, and we're now gonna potentially have to remove some items that are on the land and water conservation grant. What their response is, and we don't know that because it's until, like this, all of this budget stuff has been within the last 5 days, 6 days. So it's not like we've had, we're not sitting on time of just not reaching out to somebody, we didn't have it, so we don't know what the response is gonna be from the state, and that's where my concern lies right now is, because if we lose these grants, if they say to us, you're not, but let's use the, $5 million, the, 500,000 one for phase one, if we lose that $500,000 grant, now we're taking $1.2 million and we're deducting 500,000 from it.
Right.
And at that point, there's so little that can be done.
Do you feel like what they moved from phase one to phase two won't impact that, or do you think it might impact that?
We mean the 5.2 million?
Yeah,
Oh, it'll impact that. For sure, it will impact that.
Yeah, it's just, we're pushing money down the road. And, then there will be additional potential escalation costs, which will increase those costs more. Obviously, this is all new information that we've just received this afternoon. I wish I had, more definitive information to give all of you, but I don't. I need to contact the park grant administrators and explain the situation to them. And I need to do it before we make more final decisions. Definitely need to do it before town meeting, because we owe the town, we owe our voters, we owe the town meeting voters clear, concise information about what we're able to do and what the impacts will be. This is a good project. We all want to see it still happen. I think it can happen. I think part of it depends on how flexible the state is willing to be with us in terms of the items that actually get completed under phase one for the park grant and completed under phase two for the land and water conservation grant.
well, and I think that grant money is like the biggest selling point for the
It has been.
town,
I mean, it's, that in itself is wonderful, because you all did all of that work before I even came on board, and you were successful in getting those grants for the town. That is huge work, and I hope our citizens understand how much work has gone into getting those grant funds. It's just unfortunate, that the estimates have gone up when we asked why. I don't want to dwell on negatives, but the previous firm that was used for cost estimates was not as accurate and concise. Plus, unfortunately, given the market right now of what's going on, there's, all the communities have been holding off on doing various different projects, and, the, ARPA funds and other funds that they may have had available, now all of a sudden they have a deadline to get them spent. And, so, we're running into seeing increased prices because contractors will bid, higher pricing when they know that they've got plenty of competition. They can choose the projects they want. Chris can speak to that. So that works against
and
us.
everybody's racing against losing.
Exactly.
Money, so.
Right. And that's, another thing that, we do need to get this project out to bid and get a contract signed by the end of this calendar year. Unless we hear otherwise. Anna Lockwood is working with the interim town manager, Carter Terenzini, to get that clarification, because it was kind of our understanding that we already were locked in and that was not an issue. But we're hearing from other people now that it still is an issue and that contracts need to be executed before the end of the year so that we don't miss that deadline of commitment to the ARPA funds. So we'll find out, but in these situations, I always err on the side of caution, and I told the design firm and the OPM firm today that assume it needs to be done before the end of the year. And if we find we have extra time, we have extra time. That's great. But, you know, let's be conservative here and try to get things done. So
I think it would be my recommendation, knowing that all of this has come up in the last 5-ish days, would be to move ahead with requesting 5.2 million, only because a number needs to be given to the town manager by the 15th. I think that this will buy us, let's say, 4 weeks' time to continue with the discussions and to obviously not sit back and take all 4 weeks, because I know that decisions have to be made sooner than later. And then if we as a group decide that there is a different direction we need to be taking, regardless of what that is, I don't know what, maybe somebody will have a thought that we haven't had yet. Because the worst case scenario is we can always, you know, ask to, you know, pull that article or amend it, whatever.
We can amend it if we
Well, we
wanted to, can't we?
We could amend it, but and what are we gonna amend it to?
Or we can
You know,
just, right. we
Ask to
can just-
bypass it, whatever.
Yeah.
it's
Pass
called.
over.
Pass over,
Right,
pass
right.
over. Just because I know that a number needs to be put in, where our interim town manager seemed to be okay with I wasn't at that meeting, seemed to be okay with the 5.2. Very clear not to ask for any more than that. I can't see us asking for anything less than that at this point, given the numbers that we have currently available. That would be my suggestion, and let us keep moving forward. I have another suggestion after this conversation, you know, just to be able to, I think we need some more time and I think we
we
need
do
some
need more information.
heads, we need more information, I think we.
And we have time to get some of that more information before town meeting. The issue is getting the numbers so that they can get the warrants
Right,
printed and out to everybody. So, to your point, we can change our minds.
We have flexibility in
If we
so
need
many
to
ways.
At town meeting, you
Right.
know, or at whatever. We can just do this so that it still is something we can even talk about at town meeting. If we don't
Good point.
move ahead, then it will have to wait until spring, right? So.
I do
we
want
don't
to
have
say that the 5.2 is a number that we're still sticking with, and which the interim town manager encouraged us to stick with, for the very reason that 5.2 is a number that had been plugged into the debt schedule, the inside
already have.
operating budget debt schedule. There is old debt that is coming off the books. This new debt will replace that. So the intent was to time it in such a way that this would not add additional debt within the operating budget. It would just replace old debt. And, you know, and very different than, you know, we are not asking for a debt exclusion, which would ask for additional tax impact above and
Right.
beyond the operating budget. That is not what we're doing at this time. So, so is that a motion? that you
yeah, so
make?
I'll make a motion that we, move forward with $5.2 million in the warrant article for Marshall Park.
I'll second that.
Okay, do we have Chris still, or did we lose him?
Yeah, I'm still here. I can second
Okay.
that.
Okay, do you have any questions, Chris?
I don't at this point. I mean, I think it all makes sense. I mean, it is what we need to do now. So I'm okay with it, you know, putting the 5.2 and that's where we go.
Okay. Because we have Chris Ruth here tonight, he was kind enough to come in case we had specific questions. Chris wasn't able to participate in today's discussion, but, with the design firm, et cetera, with the revised budget. But, I believe, were you copied on that?
I was, I
Okay.
got to look at it for about a minute, and so I haven't had any chance, little time to go through it yet.
Right. So, the design team is meeting again next Thursday, at 2. And it would be really helpful if you could really try to buckle down and take a strong look at that, because I wish what he had sent out reflected some of the changes we talked about today. Maybe you can email Tom if you have any questions and have him resend that. But, you know, that it still seems like there are some things that are included in the phase 1 that could still be pushed off to phase 2 and should appropriately be pushed off into phase 2 because they're related to phase 2 work, not phase 1 work. You know, we need to get the phase 1 estimate down to the $1.244 million that we have. We can't in good conscience move ahead with it unless we have it there with funds we know we have available. If we're able to get donations or additional grants in the meantime that help provide additional funds, you know, we may get that ADA grant for the playground equipment that would come in, which would help. But we can't assume that. So, you know, I feel very strongly that we need to move ahead and get that cost estimate to the 1.22. And we also need to find out from the park grant administrators, what, you know, are they willing to still support our grant if we have that reduced scope to fit the funds we have available? That's gonna be a key factor in terms of, you know, how we proceed and what we're able to, you know, tell town meeting that we're dealing with.
Yes. So I know we have to vote on this, but if we cause I think that we don't meet again for 13 days. We need.
Right, the 23rd is our next meeting.
Do you think we're gonna need to meet before that on any of this, or do you think we're gonna be okay holding that course on the 23rd? I mean, you can decide, and it doesn't have to be decided now. If you think we need to do another meeting, we can call one. I just don't, what I don't wanna have happen, and this isn't directed towards anybody, it's just, you know, we've been doing these meetings with RDLA and Skanska for, a month or so now. I think we've had 2 or 3, and I don't want anybody to feel like they're in the dark on any of this project, especially where there's new information coming out and
Right.
things that are gonna happen, you know, that are things that may happen that we may have to, you know, bring down the scope of something or make some decisions. And I don't want anybody to feel like they've been left in the dark, because this is not an inexpensive project. And I want everybody to feel comfortable with any votes that they make and decisions that they're, you know, they're part of. So, I mean, I guess if next week comes and you feel like we need to have a quick meeting of something, then we could just throw it in the books.
My only problem is I'm heading away on vacation.
Okay.
Doesn't mean you all can't meet without me, or all, you know, I can try to participate by phone. Or Zoom,
I don't wanna
but,
take your vacation time.
well, but this is important. But, I think I need to have my head on straight when I call the park grant administrators. So that will probably happen Monday or so. And I'll obviously, you know, give you all just a quick FYI, to let you know what that is. FYI only for the purpose that it's information that you can think over until we next meet, so that we can discuss it at the open meeting and then make decisions.
Probably won't be till Tuesday either. I can't imagine.
Monday's
work.
a holiday.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's right. See, when you're retired, you forget these things. Thank you.
Our regular meeting's the 23rd.
23rd.
Yep. So do you wanna take a vote on that? The
Yeah, we haven't
5.2?
voted on the
Yeah,
5.2 yet. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Roll call. Karen?
Aye.
Colleen? Aye. Chris?
Aye.
And me, aye. So all in favor.
Chris, while I have you, before you jump off, this was my other, my random thought, and I did run this by Anita beforehand. I wanna make sure that both of you, and Tim, although I don't think Tim would take me up on this offer, have the opportunity, if they so choose, to sit with Skanska, RDLA, in some of these meetings. I would take a step back to let one of you guys come in and do that. Because once we have 3 people, it's a quorum and we have to post meetings and stuff. But if somebody would like to, you know, do that, even if it's not long-term, even if it's just, you know, I know that I'll get updates, from Anita at, you know, at our meetings and stuff. So if one of you would like to go to some of these meetings,
They're all Zoom.
they're all
Team
Zoom.
Zoom.
Right now, they're Thursdays at 2:00. And it's, you know, just lots of discussion back and forth.
Are they
Something.
available that we could watch them? Because here's the thing, I would like to sit in and hear what they have to say, but there's only so much you get when you have, you know, when you don't have the context, you haven't been there, you're figuring out what's going on. And for you, every time you miss a meeting, you lose something for the next time. There is something to having continuity in that, but are those available that like we could watch?
They're
it?
They're not
Recorded.
recorded.
They're not recorded at
No.
all. So I suppose we could probably get minutes from
Oh,
them.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yes.
So maybe like you must get the minutes, right?
We get them, they're not immediately sent out, but yes, we can forward all
But if,
those.
and maybe even if you could just, I know they're gonna get them to you as soon as they can, but they have people
Mhm.
identified to do that. So
Yes.
maybe if you could share with them that we would, I
That's a
mean,
good
Chris may go, but you know, when you, the continuity is really important. I
And
think
there
for you, and I'm only gonna get half out of going that you
There
get
is, there-
because I don't.
I can say right now, though, there's nothing right now that if I wasn't part of the discussion, I would necessarily miss, because they're gonna be discussions and decisions on the budget. I know what we have for money. I know what the estimates, the new estimates are. I know where the price differences is. I've started to really connect the dots of how we went from A to what I feel is Z at this point, in jumping of prices. I have a good understanding of how that happened, why it happened, and what should have happened at this point. So I'm not overly concerned. So if one of you guys wants to do that, that's fine with me. I'm gonna completely, oh, my kid just saw the Northern Lights and I'm completely jealous sitting in a
Well,
meeting.
I know, everybody just
Because we all
asked.
see here tonight.
Well, she's.
I know,
up there.
I'm getting a million texts from
Yeah,
people.
yeah. So, you know, whatever, I'm just throwing it out there to Chris, to, Colleen, to Tim, if one of you guys wants to go to the meeting, please let me know, I'm happy to take a step back. We're not into anything at this point that I feel like if we're missing something, that I'd be missing something by not being there. You know, again, it's completely up to you guys, we can certainly share those meeting minutes with you as they come in. I actually have not looked at them to see how detailed they are with concerns and things like that that have come up, or how the discussions are being captured. I should look at them. I just
Well,
haven't had a chance.
and, but the others were just such general
Yeah.
comments.
Right, I'm sure you're just getting
Today's
into the
meetings
real-
were the ones that had really, you know, had a lot of information that needed to be captured, so we'll see how accurate those are. So I just felt that you all needed to be brought up to speed in terms of where we are. We need that number to move forward. And if for some reason something else comes up that we feel we need to alter our course of how we're gonna proceed here, I will, you know, I'll send you every update as it comes to me. You'll have it as FYI, as I explained. FYI meaning it's for your information to review in preparation for our next open meeting, where we'll have it discussed in an open meeting. Obviously, if any of you have any questions, in the meantime, feel free to call me. I'll answer your questions as I'm best able.
I'm just gonna throw out here that we might want to, so we have the meeting on the 23rd,
Mhm.
and then town meeting is the 12th.
Right,
I'm just gonna throw out that we might wanna be prepared at that meeting on the 23rd to see if we need another
Mhm.
meeting.
Good point.
It's, you know, it's
Yep.
only a couple weeks.
Yep.
But we just
13
might
days.
wanna be thinking
Yeah.
about that, so we have another meeting before town meeting, so we have a chance to revisit. Because something tells me this is gonna kind of be a moving target,
I believe it will.
even past that.
It is.
Okay, as I can, as chair, I can send out emails to try to, find dates that are workable for another meeting for everybody. So I will do that tomorrow and get feedback from all of you, and we'll choose a date for us having a second meeting in case it's needed. Sometime between the 23rd and town meeting, special town meeting on the November 12th. Okay,
Sounds good.
does anybody else have any questions or concerns?
No,
Okay, Chris?
I'm good. I would have echoed, Karen, to your point, I was gonna echo what Colleen said, just in terms of, just a continuity thing, not knowing, but definitely would like to look at minutes and so forth and see what those, see what those look like and
Yeah.
for sure.
kind of gain some insight.
Okay.
All right, as soon as they come through, I will send them along. Okay, if everyone's good at this point, I'll take a motion to
I'll make a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn at 7:36.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Chris Sullivan
Aye.
and me, aye. So all yes to adjourn at 7:36 PM.
Thanks, Chris.
Chris, thank
Chris,
you.
have a good game.
Thanks. They're winning 5-0.
Awesome.
9 minutes left.
Awesome. Have a good